Essentially, what I wanted to do today was just kind of go through the DOGE website and look at, specifically, I'm looking today at the savings tab. So, how are we saving, as it states here, $170 billion, right? And so that works out to $1,055.90 per taxpayer. How are we doing that? Are these things that we need to be canceling? Is it actually as bloated as they say it is? What are the details of these various programs, right? I'm going to scroll down and show you the website itself, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper into the various savings means. So, without further ado, got a leaderboard. I guess they're trying to kind of gamify it a little bit, the gamification of it, the different departments to see who has got the most savings and the least savings. Of course, this seems to be kind of an arbitrary thing unless you're doing it as a percentage wise. But even then, if you're able to make more savings as a percentage of the budget that's been allocated to your agency, then you're showing that you weren't being efficient before. But if you were being efficient before, then you're actually going to end up being kind of low on this because they're probably only going to count the savings that you've made since the time that DOGE has come into existence. So to me, this is like a nonsense leaderboard. It doesn't really make much sense to have this here, but I understand why they're doing it. It gives that little extra competitive edge to it. But like taking a look at the contracts, for instance, that they've had here, we've got this here, Family Endeavors Incorporated with the Department of the Interior. They have saved, it looks like, $2.9 billion just off of this one thing. So I wanted to look at this one in particular. Here, let's open it. So the Office of Refugees Resettlement Influx Care Facility is up to 3,000 unaccompanied alien children. The contract provided facilities and full wraparound childcare and case management services. So, cutting that, I mean, that's 3,000 children we're talking about. This is a very touchy subject. Even with people who support, deporting illegal immigrants, there's a soft spot for the children who didn't choose to be here, right? It's not their fault that they're alien children. Their parents probably dragged them over here, or like there's any number of situations that can occur here. But when you're talking about kids, it gets a little more sensitive. And so cutting for 3,000 unaccompanied alien children, where are the children going to go, right? Because if you're talking about this is $2.9 billion to take care of the kids, where are they going to go? Who's going to take care of them? Who's going to watch over their services? Who's going to take care of the kids? That's my question. But let's take a look at this. We can go a little bit deeper, fpds.gov, and we can see the actual official contract stuff, right? So we look down here, terminate for convenience, and we look over here. The total was 3.3. The base and exercise options value was 1.261 total, and the action obligation was 427 million. I guess that's how they're getting their 2.9 number. I suppose they're taking this number and subtracting that number. I think that works out. Let me calculate that just to make sure that works out. Yeah, that's where they're getting that from, it looks like. Okay. Let's see. The contracting office name was the departmental offices. Contracting office name is IBC ACQ SVCS Directorate. That's kind of a lot of acronyms there. Administration for Children and Families, and Admin for Children and Families, ACF. Okay. And it looks like they are based in Antonio, Texas. This is Family Endeavors Incorporated. We saw there on that list earlier. And if we come down here, we can look at the business type. It's a corporate entity that's tax exempt. It's gotten all awards with the federal government, and organization factors, it's a nonprofit organization. So Family Endeavors Incorporated was contracted to provide these services. It's tax exempt. The purpose of this modification is to termination this task order in its entirety for the convenience of the government. So does it say a little more about what they were doing? I guess it doesn't have it on there. But let's go back to the website. That's just one. That's just one contract. And they've got, how many pages? They got 1,025 pages of 10248. Yeah. That's a lot of contracts that they terminated. So let's take a look at some more. I've already looked at a few of these. But we got this one, Centennial Technologies Incorporated. The agency was the Department of Treasury. They were doing enterprise program project integration services, and the contract was $1.9 billion. So let's take a look at the actual contract information as well. All right, so it's up, and we can see that we did not have an action obligation on this one, so we just canceled it. Boom, it's all gone. Internal Revenue Service was the contracting office agency name. Okay, so IRS is doing this for its IT operations. All right. And they are based in Virginia here, Leesburg, Virginia. Corporate entity not tax exempt. It's a minority owned business, is subcontinent Asian, American owned. Okay. They got all awards. It's a for profit organization, SBA certified, 8A program participant, that's Small Business Administration certified, and then HubZone firm as well, and self certified small disadvantaged business. $1.9 billion contract is a small disadvantaged business? Get out of here. What are you talking about? What? What are you even saying? A small disadvantaged business? $1.9 billion of a contract? I don't know how that even happened. Okay. IT and telecom business application development, and support services with labor, administrative management and general management, consulting services. The purpose of this modification is to update federal procurement data system description requirement for enterprise program project integration services, terminated for convenience, directed by Executive Order 6, unexercised options, termination effective 2/12/2025. So some kind of IT services provided by this company has been scratched. All right, next up we got A1 Fed Impact is the vendor here. It looks like they were doing something for the Department of Defense. They were doing geographic service providing, and we saved 1.764 billion on this one, but the total contract was that much. So let's take a look. 2.4 billion in the base contract and all options value. It was contracted by the Defense Health Agency, the DHA Enterprise Med Support, EMS, CD, and then the Defense Health Agency, DHA. There it is, A1 Fed Impact LLC, and they're based in Reston, Virginia. And oh my goodness, look at the business types. Let's see. Corporate entity not tax exempt, socioeconomic data, minority owned business, subcontinent Asian, American owned, woman owned business, woman owned small business, economically disadvantaged woman owned small business, joint venture, woman owned small business, joint venture eligible under the WOSB program. All awards, for profit organization, limited liability corporation, SBA certified joint venture, self certified small disadvantaged business. Once again, $2.4 billion contract to a small disadvantaged business. Geographic service providers, that's all they give. So I don't know, maybe they're doing like maps and stuff, or maybe they're doing like satellite data analysis. I don't know. It doesn't really give too much detail here. Computer facilities management services. So maybe they're managing the computers that are being used for geographic services. IT and telecom business application support development services labor. We also got Accenture. I think I've heard of Accenture before. Enterprise cloud service provider, reseller, and software management. And it looks like we saved 1.417 billion, and the total contract was 1.491 billion. So let's take a look at this one too. John Meeham for FA8726 at us.af.mil. Okay. Funding only action. That there was the total contract value there. And then Department of the Air Force. They were based in Arlington, Virginia. Accenture Federal Services LLC. This one is corporate entity not tax exempt. All awards. It is a for-profit organization, and it is foreign owned. Foreign owned. So, there's a little bit of a trend with how these are being selected. It looks like, although given that there's 10,000 contracts to go through, I don't think I'm going to have enough data on my own to just figure it out if it's actually wasteful or if it was like targeted towards foreign owned companies that had contracts, or the woman small business stuff. You see what I mean? It's just so far from the first four, we see a little pattern there. But let's take another look at the Doge website again. Just take a look at a few more contracts. I'm not going to bore you by going through every single one of them. I think if you have enough time to do that, then you can do that. But just going to do a few more. Let's see what else we got. Seguriance with the Department of Defense. We've got 565 million. So we're out of the billions range here, but now we are at the half a millions in savings. But the contract itself was over $1 billion. So let's take a look. Hillary Dean HR 0011 at DARPA.mil. His total contract, like I said, 1.2 billion. It looks like the action obligation that has currently been done, we got 7.287 million with a total of 419 million. So I guess they're saying that this is what we've already spent on it, and then so anything left over from the total contract is the savings that we're not going to have to pay anymore. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. They just keep repeating it, different abbreviations there. Gurians LLC. Here we are. They're based in Virginia. Corporate entity not tax exempt. Minority owned business. Asian Pacific American owned. Veteran owned business. All awards. It's a for profit organization. It's a limited liability corporation. It's SBA certified. HUB zone. Yeah, so this one once again is Asian Pacific American owned. I've seen like 3 of them so far have some kind of Asian Pacific ownership of the corporation or the nonprofit entity. And they were doing custom computer programming services, IT telecom facility operation, and maintenance. All right, then we got the Acacia Center for Justice. I saw this one, and this one kind of ties into that first one that we looked at. I'm not sure how connected they actually physically were, but it seems like these guys were providing legal services for unaccompanied children. So we're taking away the case management and the care of the children, and we're also taking away their legal services, so that it's more difficult for them to complain about not having the care because they don't have anyone to advocate for them. At least that's my thinking. That's how they've kind of framed this here. Department of Health and Human Services Administration of Children and Families, Office of Refugee Resettlements, Legal Services for Unaccompanied Children. And it looks like the total contract was 1.136 billion. And so we're going to end up saving, we're not even saving that much comparatively to what it was, 367 million. Gene Marino didn't even get an email for whoever prepared this, actually. That's kind of weird. Terminating for convenience. And so it looks like we've already spent 930 million, 121,000 on it. So we're only saving a little bit, looks like. Departmental offices, IBCACQ, CVSCS Directorate, the Administration for Children and Families, Admin for Children and Families, ACF. And these guys are based in Washington, D.C. It's the Acacia Center for Justice. And they are a corporate entity, tax exempt. They're in a relationship with federal government, all awards, and they are a nonprofit organization. Either you could say that previous administration was just shelling out money for these kind of things, or you could say that the current administration just doesn't care about these kids anymore. So, either way, there's an angle to it, right? But just the raw data, this is how much we've already spent on it and how much we were planning to spend on it total. And if you personally know about these people, if you've been, involved with Acacia Center for Justice, if you've been involved with Family Endeavors Incorporated and you know about these things and you know how these contract cancellations are affecting the organization and the people that they were set up to serve, feel free to comment down below. I'd love to read more about that. I'm sure other people would love to read more about that too. So let us know. Sorry about that pause. My wife brought me something to drink. I guess she heard me coughing in the other room. So good. All right. But anyway, Booz Allen Hamilton. Let's learn a little bit more about this because that looks like it's just like a name of a person or something. But anyway, they had whoever it is, they had a contract, $419 million. Let's see what it is. Systems development, modernization, enhancement, operations, and maintenance for National Science Foundation's enterprise applications that support the agency's merit review and grants management activities. Okay. So once again, total contract was 419 million. It looks like we're saving 347 million. Let's take a look at it. So it's scardy at nsf.gov is the prepared user there. Yep. So it looks like a total action obligation was 78.119 million. It's from the National Science Foundation that made the contract here. And the person here, Booz Allen Hamilton. Oh, there is an incorporated there. So it's a corporation. All right. They are in McLean, Virginia, and the corporate entity not tax exempt, relationship with federal government, all awards, and it is a for-profit organization. IT and telecom business application development, support services, labor, so they're doing that again. Computer systems design services, information technology, mission application support, incremental funding. Incremental funding, what is that? This one doesn't seem to be termination now that I'm looking at it. I don't see anywhere where it says it's being terminated. I can see that it says here the incremental funding, and then up here it says funding only action. So it's not terminating it, but it's not super clear about what they're doing, at least to me. Maybe you've already seen it. Are they renegotiating? This one is a little more tricky than just terminating it, because if you're just changing how much you're going to pay, if you're just renegotiating the contract, then certainly you can't just do that simple calculation that we had earlier. If you know more about these contracts, please comment down below about what that means. Like, what is funding only action? What is, incremental funding in context of these kinds of contracts? All right, let's take a look at like another one, and then we'll go down to the grants. So, Office of Personnel Management. The contractor shall enable OPM Staff Acquisition Group the capability to provide human resources related to products and services should their current and future recruitment and branding clients. This requirement is specifically to provide support for OPM and its federal agency clients. It's important to note that additional OPM clients may be incorporated into this performance work statement as the need arises. Vendors are expected to exhibit the necessary flexibility to cater to a diverse range of OPM clients' needs pre-award. And this is canceled solicitation. Pre-award, so I'm guessing that means that they were in the process of reviewing it and deciding if they were going to give it or not, and they just decided to cancel it. Project Solutions Incorporated was contracted by the Agency of Housing Urban Development with a total contract of $315 million, and we are saving $285 million. Let's see. The contractor services support REAC in achieving complete and accurate A, physical assessments on HUD assisted and insured properties, B, assessments on health risks posed by a property, C, assessments of the effectiveness of standards and procedures, D, documentation support for enforcement actions and sanctions. These services provide REAC's customers, partners, and stakeholders with accurate assessments that support data-driven decision-making, help ensure HUD-assisted and insured properties are safe, healthy, and effectively managed, and ensure HUD standards, policies, and procedures are current and incorporate industry best practices. That sounds a lot like a lot of buzzwords. Let's see what's going on in the contract here. All right, it looks like the prepared user was G.H. Jackson. Housing and Urban Development Department, okay. Chicago Operations Branch was the contracting office name. The funding agency name was the Assistant Secretary for Public and Indian Housing. Yep. Public and Indian Housing. And then the funding office name was Public Indian Housing. Okay. That gives a little bit more detail of what was going on here. So they're in Rapid City, South Dakota. All right. Project Solutions Incorporated. It's a woman-owned business, woman-owned small business. They got all awards. It's a for-profit organization, subchapter S Corporation, DOT certified disadvantaged business, enterprise, and small disadvantaged business. Support, professional, engineering, technical, commercial and institutional building construction. Cancellation of HUD BPA1 architect, engineering, and inspection support services. Okay, so the picture that seems to be here is that somewhere in South Dakota, which I'm not super familiar, so forgive me, but there's a reservation. I'm sure what I'm seeing here is that we were providing this money to some contractors to inspect and build houses. Is that right? And now they're not getting the rest of those funds, so we're basically canceling whatever was left of the project work. Let's kind of review what we've seen so far in the contracts, and then we'll move on to the grants. So far, we've seen Unaccompanied children are losing their care, their case managers, and their legal services. Small women owned small businesses and certified disadvantaged small businesses are losing their contracts. Foreign, mainly IT service providers, are losing their contracts with the government. And then, of course, the Native Americans' housing is being cut. So that's what we've got so far. Whether or not these people were doing a good job at using these funds wisely is a completely different question, but the willingness of the current administration to continue funding these projects is clearly not there. So we've got next, we'll go into the grants. So these are some of the grants that have been canceled, and it looks like we saved 1.75 billion on this first one. So this was a grant to the Gavi Foundation from USAID. We've got 2.63 billion on the total grant, and we are saving 1.750 on the savings. The 2021 to 2025 strategic Gavi 5.0, which was approved by the Gavi board in June 2019, builds on the alliance's years of demonstrated success and strives towards its vision to leave no one behind with immunization to increase coverage and equity. Gavi 5.0 prioritizes zero-dose children who have not received a single vaccine shot, as well as missed communities. The zero-dose agenda is also a key priority for the global community's immunization agenda 2030, which was endorsed by the World Health Assembly in May 2020. Before I jump into this, I guess, we got to talk about vaccines a bit, right? June 2019 was when their strategy was approved, whatever that strategy may be, right? So that's pre-COVID pandemic, right? Because it was COVID-19. All right, so it looks like this was decided upon pre-COVID-19, which with immunization, you can't deny the efficacy of the vaccination of the populace with regard to many, many, many different diseases. I mean, shoot, we don't even talk about polio anymore. The flu vaccine comes out every year, and from what I understand, is at least mildly effective. And then the other various diseases that have just been stomped out. I mean, when's the last time you heard somebody have measles, or mumps? These terrible diseases that are essentially an afterthought now. Like, we have historical record, we know that they still exist, but the majority of the population that I've been around, just personally, has been immunized against this. And so I'm in support of, if we want to look for those children who have not received a single vaccine shot, and we want to get them their basic vaccine so they don't have to deal with having one of those terrible diseases, I'm all for it. I don't know what their strategy was. Maybe I need to actually look into this. It looks like they said, was it the World Health Assembly in May 2020? It was endorsed. So maybe we should look into that too. Perhaps that's too big a scope for this video, but maybe we'll look into it into another video. I'm all for getting folks vaccinated. The Agency for International Development gave Gavi Alliance, which is in Switzerland. Interesting. So this is a Swiss company. Foreign assistance for programs overseas. Outlaid amount was 880 million. Obligated amount 880 million. 880 million total funding. Wait, but the number was wasn't it like 2 billion? Or maybe they're saying that's how much they've given out, and now they're canceling the rest of that grant. The Foreign Assistance Program works to support long-term and equitable economic growth and advance U.S. foreign policy objectives by supporting economic growth, agriculture and trade, global health, and democracy. Conflict prevention and humanitarian assistance. The administrative agency is the Agency for International Development, Agency for International Development. Okay. Modification number, the action dates. This was back in 2022. Okay, this is what we just read. That's what we read on the other page. To increase coverage and equity. Yep. Zero-dose children. Yep, we talked about that. We're canceling our support for Gavi Alliance's work towards trying to get people vaccinated. If you have any dealings with them, let me know. Did this affect it? It sounds like they have world agency supporting them. So maybe they weren't super affected by us just pulling this contract out. Maybe they have plenty of support and they're going to continue their mission, and they're going to, plow forward and not worry about losing the rest of this particular grant. Maybe. I don't know. You let me know. The Texas Department of State Health Services, all right, 877 million in savings. The total grant amount was 1.53, and they don't have any extra information. So I don't know what that was for, but it was Department Health and Human Services was giving state health services to Texas, and that's gone now. World Health Organization. Ooh, polio and immunization. Wow, I was just talking about this. Let's take a look. Apparently, we're no longer supporting WHO in the polio immunization. So obligated amount 239 million, outlaid amount 155 million, total funding 239 million. I guess that's how much we still have to give. Who, polio, and immunization 2. Revision, continuation, continuation, continuation. Okay. New. And that was back in 2022. I guess we still have to give some. They've saved some money by not doing the full thing. Hopefully, we can have wherever polio is still going on, which is another thing I need to research. Hopefully, they'll still have enough funds to take care of that. Let's see. Department of Health and Human Services awarded the Public Health Foundation Enterprises Incorporated with a grant of $1.696 billion. And so they're claiming a savings of $482 million. A lot of these have currently unavailable, so we can't dig into it as much. This one looks like there was a contract with, Florida. So Texas and Florida are losing their grants, at least partial of their grants. So they were promised 1.236 billion, and we are saving 482 million on that one, which I guess adds up. If you were giving out so much to every state, it does add up money wise over time. Let's see. Research Triangle Institute, Department of Health and Human Services, we're saving once again 428 million. International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, 1.3 billion, and we're saving 372 million. Now I have heard that some of the USAID stuff, the funds were earmarked as one thing, but they were actually going towards some other like secretive agenda. I don't know if that's why these are currently unavailable. Maybe they were actually doing other stuff. Who knows? Let's see. Oh, this one has more details. All right. Grant to Family Health International by the USAID. And we had a total grant of 325 million. We are saving 321 million. So we only gave them like less than 5 million, or less than 4 million actually. So IHSS aims to achieve sustainable, equitable, and resilient health systems through locally led, evidence-driven, and context-specific approaches to health system strengthening, with the goal of advancing primary health care, accelerating progress towards universal health coverage, and improving health outcomes. Let's take a look in the USA spending. Obligated amount 3.6 million. Really? That's interesting. That was a very large contract for the obligated amount to be so low. Maybe that's like a time-based thing, since it's so short in the time. Because if you look here, the start date it only started December 19th, 2024, and the end date was slotted to be December 18th, 2029. So it was only supposed to be a 5-year grant, it looks like. Okay, they're based in North Carolina. Interesting. So it seems to be this one seems to be for healthcare of some kind, but it doesn't really give too many details about the specifics, but it looks like a primary healthcare. Let's take a look now at the leases here. I looked through these a little bit. It seems like there's a ton of leases here. We got 563 leases. So let's just take a quick look at the square footage that we didn't need and then the money we were spending on it. So National Park Service was spending 9.5 million on 39 square feet. I'm sorry, 39,000 square feet. Then this next termination here, we got 9.45 saving for 86,000 square feet. And it looks like we had annual lease of 2.9 million on that one. And that was the opposite of the Secretary in Denver, Colorado. And then next up, we have a geological survey with an annual lease cost of $810,000. And it looks like however long we had the lease for, it was going to end up being a lot more than that. My goodness, 8 million in savings. And that was for 35,000 square feet in Utah, Moab, Utah. Then the Forest Service in Anchorage, Alaska had an annual lease of 1.179 million for 27,000 square feet, and we were given a savings by canceling this $7.88 million. Then we've got the Office of the Secretary had an annual lease cost of 1.1 million, and so we are saving 7.875 million on this 25,000 square foot property. I wonder what these venues are being used for, you know. Agency for GL Med. I'm not sure what GL Med is, but in Miami, Florida, they were leasing something for 1.4 million and it had 35,000 square feet and the total savings were $5.4 million. Department of the Treasury, Bureau of the Fiscal Service, had a annual lease cost of 2.568 million. So they were saving 2.39 million. Square footage was 76,000 square feet. This one in Cleveland, Ohio, the Department of Health and Human Services had an annual lease of 1.055 million and they are going to get a total savings of 4.374 million and the square footage was 45,000 square feet. So that's interesting. I think I'll put up a few calculations to see what the price per square foot was as well for the leases to see, you know, what caliber of places they were renting out down there in these various locations. That's it for me for the savings tab. You know, if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know down in the comments. Like this? Do you want me to look at more leases, grants, or contracts? Have a great day.